As journalists and television hosts, scripts are a lifeline. Each newscast, each story, it all revolves around a script.
But now it's time to go unscripted. That means we're not just going off script, we're throwing out the script altogether.
Each week, we're joined by fellow Farm Journal hosts and editors to peel back the layers on stories we've shared throughout the week.
Unscripted. It's real, it's raw, it's entertaining, and it's your chance to meet the personalities behind the personalities. I'm Tyne Morgan.
And I'm Clinton Griffiths. Welcome to Unscripted. Yes, welcome to Unscripted. I'm Clinton Griffiths, joined by the ever-lovely Tyne Morgan. Tyne, how was your Memorial Weekend?
It was good. And, now that we're doing another episode of Unscripted, I'm just excited that Farm Journal HR hasn't pulled the plug on us yet.
They may not know yet. It's the world's best kept secret on YouTube. I'm just saying. But you know what? It's a lot of fun. And I think today we're probably going to top some stuff. I think we're going to do some new things that we haven't done before. We've got a great guest.
Well, Clinton, he just may be the most famous face of Farm Journal. We like to refer to him as the Justin Bieber of the used equipment world. He is that popular. Without further ado, it is Greg Peterson, or as most of you know him, the Machinery Pete.
Justin Bieber, holy smokes.
What did you just call him?
He's got his own cartoon.
No, wait. Say the name again, Greg.
Well, you said Justin Bieber. I said Justin Bieber.
I said Justin Bieber. You said Justin Bieber.
Okay, well, I'm old. Listen, so my old ears thought you said Justin Bieber, and I was like, oh, hey, that actually sounds a little better. But I don't know if that's I'm not going to comment. I'll just say that.
Great.
Hey, go ahead.
You remember that one year at National Farm Machinery, and this is why I say that you're this popular. You remember that one year we were at National Farm Machinery Show, and at National Farm Machinery Show, listen, if you want to get somewhere, do not travel with Greg because he gets stopped every 2 feet, literally. So I was with Greg, needed to get to another booth at National Farm Machinery Show. And so I'm trying to get him. I'm trying to pull him away. And a gentleman comes up to me and he goes, man, are you Machinery Pete's secretary? Oh. And I looked at him and I said, I sure am. How may I help you? And from that moment on, I realized just how popular Greg is. Greg, so you have a couple daughters, but let's go back a little bit. We know you as Machinery Pete, and you've been in this business how long?
Coming up 35 years in November, so 34 and a half now. It was 1989. I was about a year out of college. I was an accounting major. Little school in Minnesota. My wife Jackie was a year behind me and we were engaged. So I was just doing accounting work in the Twin Cities, waiting until she graduated so we could get hitched. We got married. She got a teaching job in her hometown of Rochester. So we had to move. I was doing accounting work for an insurance company in the Twin Cities. So I just thought, well, I'll go find an accounting job in Rochester. It's 80,000 people. And right when I was looking that 1 month, October of 89, my dad, Jerry, who's now 86, doing well, called me up and he said, hey, come back home to Benson. I got to show you something. And there was actually, so this was 1989, but my dad was a farm equipment dealer, and his banker up the road in Morris, Minnesota, one of the controller at the bank, had started compiling an auction price book. Now, there was, of course, no internet back then. And because the bank internally wanted hard cash valuations for all that trauma that the 80s was horrible, right? But my dad as a dealer, really enjoyed this auction price book. Now, he did not enjoy the prices in there because everything was selling for dirt cheap, but he liked knowing. And it turned out that guy was trying to sell this little business. He had 100 subscribers at $14.95, so it was kind of an idea. But my dad knew I was looking for a job, and he said, you're 23. I know you're very independent. He just said, I think there's something here, and you don't have kids yet. And, father knows his son. The irony of it was that I had a few months earlier when I was looking for an accounting job, my grades weren't too great in college. I was focused on maybe some golf and other things that I Should have been
Greg is
more.
an incredible golfer.
Well, we're gonna get into that later. but it
used to
doesn't
be.
matter.
Golfer, by the way.
Yeah,
Nobody
used
knows
to be.
that about him.
We're getting into that later.
Okay.
That leads us to our first segment, Talking Tea. All right, Talking Tea. Greg, I mean, I just mentioned it. You have seen a lot of change in your 35-year career. You talked about equipment prices, but when you look at the auction market overall, if you had to pinpoint what was the biggest change, what would you say it is?
Oh, no question would be what happened 4 years ago with the pandemic, March of 2000. It's hard to remember. You know, we live in a world where all people focus on is what happened today or yesterday, and I think that's stupid. It frustrates the heck out of me. We need a longer lens, both looking backwards and also trying to look forward. So 4 years ago, you know, corn and beans hadn't shot up yet. And the pandemic hit. You know, March is the busiest auction season in the US, maybe April in Canada. And then also figure the average age of the American auctioneer is probably, you know, it's older than me, like the American farmer, I don't know, 63, 4, 5, whatever. Probably not the most technology savvy folks, like I'm not. So bang, this thing shuts down. And you get states like where I live, Minnesota, and they're like, hey, you can't have any people events. That's done. So you got a choice. We can cancel all the auctions or we can do online only. And the whole space collectively just leaned in full force and said, okay, online only. And now I'm the scorekeeper. I'm ESPN. Yeah. I'm ESPN. So 34 years, I just keep track. Okay, this thing's a piece of crap. It's a 10-year-old wheel loader. Boom, what'd it bring? I just want the number. So I started to see prices go up. And I actually wrote a blog, I think 10 days after the shutdown, whatever that was, March 11th of 2020. And I'm like, this is unbelievable. Prices are going up noticeably. And it was across the board in the South and the East and the Midwest, good condition, average condition. And the only thing that I could figure was that it was just, we'd stripped everything away. And now it was just you and your phone. And we're social. Humans are social. And folks in the farm community, I mean, frankly, to survive through the ups and downs over the decades, you got to have some dog in it. You got to fight through ups and downs. And there's competitiveness in that. So now we've had 15 years of online bidding, and now we flipped the switch and went bang, online only. Today, let's go. And you know, the reason the auction method of selling, not just farm machinery, but all methods of selling, the reason it's been around for over 2 centuries is because it works and it's emotional. We're humans, we get invested. And so now nobody is seeing you bid one more time. And you guys know we've had some fun over the years talking about bidding styles. And I mean, I love in-person auctions. And frankly,
they're so fun. It's just like a showcase of characters, right?
Well, it's the best. Going to an airport is awesome, people watching, but auctions are even better. Now you've taken away all your neighbors who are going to see Clinton bid. God, Clinton bid 45.5 on that crappy old 44.50. Do you believe they're going to go to church? They're going to have a donut, and you know we're Midwestern.
What an idiot!
Yeah. Now Minnesotans, we wouldn't lead with it. Might slip out after the third beer or something, but
yeah, they would never say it out loud right away.
In Missouri, we're leading with it, Greg. We're leading with it.
Which is why I love coming to visit you in Missouri and Margie down there, Tyne, because Missouri, you guys just let it rip. It's just good. I love it. But no, now nobody knows. So I always said at a physical auction when we would be filming and the bidder would shake their head. No. That was the first step. Then they'd come around and then they would actually say, no. And they'd start to walk away. And I'm a data guy, so I would go the average of 6 to 8 steps. They'd go 6 to 8 steps and then stop. Now I knew from our data that 2/3 of the time they're going to bid again. And it's not just one bid, it's 2 to 3 bids. Now that was in physical auction with all the eyeballs on you.
No way.
So now you took all that away and it's just you and your phone. And it's like, doggone it, I'm going to get that S680 and okay, I'll bid it up. And prices went up. And so the blog I wrote that week after was that I think, folks, that we just put a big old lasso, whatever, around the whole used farm equipment space, and we just yanked it 7 to 10 years forward to make it more like the used car space.
Yeah.
Which car dealers, they move new, that's how they make, and then the service and everything, that's how they make their money. The used cars, just move it. Just move it. Take it to another, just move it. Keep it moving. And it just, the space got faster. Now, of course, things are changing right now. So
Yeah. Did it hold up until here in the last few months?
well, I would say it did because, I started to see, and we talked about this a lot, whether our show or, Ag Day or whatever, our blogs I write. But, so combines was the first sector to start turning, basically when the used supply started to go up. And that was December 22, January 23. And I suspected that prices would tank exactly like they did 10 years ago in 14 and 15. And back then, auction prices on late model used tractors, combines, planters fell 20 to 25%. It was the biggest drop I've ever seen. So when things, and excuse me, when things started to tighten this time around, they dropped, but presently they haven't dropped as much. And I attribute that, and people say, well, why is that? And to me, that's why, because of the growth of the online. So now, even 10 years ago in 2014, if a dealer was like, oh man, we got too many combines, let's put them out at auction. One, it might have been a physical auction on the dealer's lot. And yeah, they had online bidding, but it's just completely ballgame different now. So now it's probably an online only auction, and the bidders and buyers could be from, say the dealers in Illinois. I mean, they might be Minnesota. People don't even think about that anymore. They just click the button. And the pandemic made the whole space get over that hurdle, and it's just been no looking back since.
So you think if it weren't for the pandemic, that transition wouldn't have happened as quick?
Nope, it wouldn't. It wouldn't. We're humans. And I mean, there was no doubt there was movement towards online only. You had certain firms that were ahead of the game, Big Iron, DPA, Del Peterson out there in Nebraska. By the way, both firms from Nebraska. I don't know if it speaks to the forward thinking of the Western farm mindset, but Big Iron went online only in 2009. I actually did a YouTube interview with owner Ron Stock at the time. I'm like, wow, you guys are really doubling down here on this online thing. And he was like, yep, it's the future. And so it just wouldn't have happened as fast, because what happened is so many auction firms were hesitant, and again, older than me, and they're like, it's human nature. But all of a sudden, when it was like, whoa, okay, not only did prices go up, but the logistics of auction day completely changed. And again, I'm sad, because the one thing our country needs more than anything right now is for people to get together,
right,
and just talk, have a donut, whatever, just talk. And it's like, if prices went up and costs went down, to have this is probably a pretty powerful thing. And so many auctioneers have just stayed online only, and that's where we are.
Greg, do you drink coffee? You a coffee guy?
No.
Sadly.
Pop.
I was going to ask you how many cups of coffee you've had in one of those little white styrofoam cups, because actually, those are like the donut, and then the straight black coffee in a little white styrofoam cup. I mean,
the answer, okay, will be interesting. The answer to that question is one, because I'm not a coffee drinker. But
see, that's a good question. Then there's one. Tell us that story.
Well, I was in Illinois at an auction, and a friend in the auction business, John Probasco, now with Merit Auctions, brought me a cup of exactly what you just said, a cup of coffee. It's the Midwest thing to do. Pete, it's cold out here. Here you go. Here's a cup of coffee. And I was like, Johnny, I'm not a coffee drinker, but thank you so much. And so, yeah, I drank it and it was fine. Our daughters are big coffee drinkers. I cannot get off the Diet Coke train, though. I just can't. I tried. I've quit a couple times. It's a machine repeat fault. It's not good.
So did you drink it black though, or did you have creamer in it?
No, it was black. It was black. And the only other time I had a cup of coffee, back to the golf thing, was in a tournament in Galesburg, Illinois in 1985. In the spring, we got to this tournament. I think it was Knox College in Galesburg, and it was 71 degrees when we got there. So we're like, this is awesome. And the next day it was 34.
Whoa.
And it started snowing So they shortened it to 9 holes, and the coaches brought out coffee. So I just put my fingers in the coffee because my fingers were so cold. I wasn't going to drink this black goop, but it did keep my fingers a little warm, and it probably helped me make a bogey instead of a double. So I was happy.
Oh
You
my
know what I
gosh.
love about Greg is that he remembers like the month, the date, the location.
39 years ago, Clinton.
I
39
know.
years. Greg, I mean, I hate to do this, but I was born in 1985. So I'm doing the math here. 39
Well,
years ago, and you still remember that cup, which tells me you were definitely not hooked on coffee if you remember,
Well,
Yeah,
you
the
need to-
2 cups of coffee you've ever had in your life.
his life. And he didn't
Sometime-
drink one of them.
Sometime I'm going to have my wife Jackie on our Machine Repeat podcast and tell the behind the scenes story, because people say, how do you remember all that stuff? And really, for me, it's numbers. So
Yeah.
golf is a numbers game. It's like, okay, what did you shoot? What club did you hit? A 7-iron, a 5-iron? A number. When I was a kid, and back when they used to have study halls in school, I would just sit and doodle numbers. So I was like here in Minnesota, I was a big Minnesota Vikings fan. So I would go, okay, if Chuck Foreman averaged 92 yards rushing per game. Back then, there were not 14 games, so I'd go, he's number 44. 14 times 92 equals X. And if he did that for 6 years, he'd wind up with X. That's probably Hall of Fame. How many touchdowns? And it's just numbers. And people, have been following my stuff for years. That's why, God works in amazing ways, because he placed me and made me and made this gig for me, where I've got to deal with 2 million numbers on auction prices on every conceivable piece of farm equipment, and then write about it and talk about it.
Well, and Greg, every time we go to one of these events, someone will throw out, hey, I've got a XYZ that's a 1984, and you'll spit back to him like the last 3 that sold at auction and for what price. And Tyne and I are constantly like, who remembers all that?
Not only that, somebody comes up
on a list.
And not only that, somebody comes up and you may not remember their name, but you remember what tractor they taught. I mean, you know them by the year and model.
Yes, I do not know. But hey, it's Diet Coke is a high list Machine Repeat kryptonite item. The other, it's ironically is names. You guys have seen it out in that line at Louisville. People will come, and I haven't figured out a good trick. I didn't train in media like you guys did, and you guys were so good with people. And I try to be. I just try to listen. But someone will come and say, "Hey, I'm John from whatever," and it just like it bounces off my head, and then we'll talk. And you're right, I can remember, or they'll ask me about their 1086 or their 4450 or their Ford F600 or whatever, and we could. That's common ground. We could talk about that, and that stuff sticks with me. I don't know why. Maybe back to when I was a kid, doodling all those numbers, but yeah, names are tricky. So I'm working on that. I'm working on my weaknesses. That's one thing, not to go totally off topic, but I know you guys, we've talked a lot about this. I see these personality tests, companies give their employees where you identify your strengths and stuff.
Have you taken one?
No, I haven't.
I won't either, because I have multiple personalities and I don't want to know.
Well, okay. So you're stubborn. I know that. And that's, stubbornness is good. But as you get older, I wonder, Tyne, if you will find what I'm finding is that the huge opportunities lie in identifying not our strengths so much, but our weaknesses. And then, being aware of those. And to me, they're just huge opportunities. Now that to me has business applications. It's like, this customer gets sideways with you. And the human thing to do is go, oh, wow, they're a yahoo, whatever. But that's just missed opportunity. Now, if you listen to that customer, okay, well, what's the issue? Now you can't magically fix everything, and you can't be a doormat. But what I found, and I learned this frankly from my wife, she's in education here in Rochester for all these years. And she's kind of on the admin team, sort of like chief of schools is her title. So the stuff
she's a big deal, is what you're saying.
She's like way beyond me. But what she has to deal with is unbelievable. She has a skill of taking a mess and turning it into like a double positive. But you can't do that unless you honestly address the issue, whether that's an angry parent or a staff member or a policy issue. The easy thing is to shy away from it. I don't want to deal with that.
Right.
And just lean into our weaknesses and what can we do to make things better. And This is what happens when you talk to an old guy like me. We get off tangent. And it just that's why I like your title Unscripted, because it's like perfect.
But Greg, so I want to turn this into a conversation that the whole industry is having right now, whereas we're starting to see a kind of an uptick of inventory on dealer lots. And if we're talking a little bit of tea about machinery right now, does that worry you, or is it an opportunity?
I mean, obviously, if you're a dealer, it's highly concerning with interest rates where they are. I mean, that's the other thing. Our short-term focus culturally, whether you're a farmer or dealer or anybody, we all got used to 0% interest. Well, it's no fun paying 7 or plus % interest on a house or a tractor. It's also no fun looking out like my dad did all those years ago, which frankly was the reason he wanted and valued the auction price data, was because he'd look out his window and he'd go, shoot, I got 15 too many combines. And if I got to sell these tomorrow, what's my hard cash number? I need a number. And so what's changed, I guess the concerning piece to me is something back to the physical auctions when we were having the coffee or the Diet Coke with a donut, piece of pie. All these years, I'd stand there and you would watch something sell and you turn to the farmer or whatever and you go, do you believe that? You think you'd ever see a used combine sell for $200,000? Now that was X number of years, 20 plus years ago. And you'd say, well, it can't go higher. It can't. And then, it of course has. And guys, we were down in Houston and, for a Commodity Classic, and we saw that $1.3 million, 84,000 pound track tractor. And so I did a video on the tractor. It was like, oh, all the stuff. It's really cool. Efficiencies, save labor. But the number one question people asked me was like, what's it cost? And 1.3 million is the number. Now, as that number, whether it's a tractor, planter, combine, as that's got higher, there's always been and again, you're talking to a guy who has numbers, data running through. That's how my brain works. So for 25 years, I've compared the auction price to the dealer on the lot asking price. And that's the gap. How big is the gap?
Yeah.
And for 25 years, the average correlation was 71 to 76%. So in essence, Clinton, if you have that John Deere tractor, Case IH tractor, whatever, Tyne, and you see them advertised on the dealer lot for X, you take about 3/4 of it, and was pretty close to what it would sell for at auction in normal times. Now, of course, in ag, there's no normal, there's ups and downs. The last 3 years, it was been more like 85+%. So it actually was scary for a dealer to sell something off the lot in 21, 22 because it's going up in value. It'd be worth more next week. But then now we're in a different time. And so that gap that I measure is spreading. And what I've been trying to communicate is that the gap is not as big as it was 10 years ago in 14, 15, when it was a 20 to 25% year-over-year drop in late model used 2 years in a row. That was the biggest drop I've ever seen. Now we're on late model stuff. It's inching 15 to 19.5% now. So you're starting to get closer. Will it get there? That's the thing where I'll fall back on my Minnesotaness, and you guys know I don't like to predict. I like to report. So this brought X today, a 1-year-old New Holland, Case IH, whatever combine, $200, bang, here's what it brought. And then just compile a lot of that stuff. So then it's not a one-off, but well, here's 4 or 5 of them, and here's what they're bringing. So I'm not necessarily worried about it. I mean, the market is, I guess this is the underlying truth of what I've done for 34 years, is the market is brutally honest. And auctions are brutally, you put something up for sale, I don't care if it's, one of my used golf clubs or a tractor, it's going to bring what it brings. And it doesn't matter if I like it or I don't like it. It's just bang, that's what it's worth. Hard cash, write me a check now. And that goes up and down. But what we have going for us now are these new tools.
Right.
Now, they're not going to completely stop the bleeding, but you have access to buyers over all of North America now at the drop of a hat with great auction companies. And now all auction companies, are getting this amazing traction. We're trying to help them with machinerypete.com so they can get their upcoming auction listings in our site for more eyeballs. So those things are helping with the changing times, I think.
Okay. Well, speaking of some of these listings, we'll move on to our next segment. What the Sigma? Okay, what the Sigma? Craziest headline that you've read or you've written, but for you follow so much data. It honestly, thinking about it, makes my head hurt, Greg. When you think about the auction prices that you've seen lately, what has been your what the Sigma moment?
Well, I'd probably take you back to April 29th in Berlin, Wisconsin. And so this was really interesting to me. We did a segment, for Clinton and Ag Day on this and for our own TV show, but it was an unusual sale. It was by a great auction company, Wilkinson Auction and Realty. And the name of the seller was R&M Motors, so a dealer, used equipment dealer, but also kind of a collector a little bit. And okay, so the market's turning down. We're seeing the adjustment with late model used. So they have the sale, and they had a 1992 John Deere 4055, so a good little haying tractor, 32 years old, only had 22 hours on it. So again, that's part of it. Yeah, right. So
Wow.
that's one piece of like, well, machinery B, what the hell? Why did it have 22 hours? Okay, we can talk about that. But then, okay, here comes sale day. Now, leading up to sale, what is this thing going to bring? And again, when you've done this for 34 and a half years like I have, I, of course, do my thing and go, folks, the highest auction price I've ever seen was $93,000. It was on December 16th, 2016 in St. Edward, Nebraska. It had 215 hours on it. And in 1989 model, John Temmie auction sold it. It was a sunny day. Here's a video link to watch it sell. $93,000. No one will ever break that price. Okay, well, that's why I don't like to predict.
That was your first mistake.
Well, I
Well,
like that you said it was a sunny day. See, to me, that was like, oh, well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Everybody was in a good mood.
So again, I just said, hey, the highest I've ever seen is 93. Now, kind of place your bets. Well, the thing brought $275,000. Now, that's almost triple. And okay, we can bring in the inflation and all the government, and then fine, knock yourself out, talk inflation. That's obviously a piece. But I'm sorry, that's not just all inflation.
No.
And that's what that is old money in action. And that's why farm land values haven't started tanking yet. Because, the average age of the American farmer is older. And these folks, again, I've spent 3.5 decades dealing with them, and my hats, the risk they take every year is the general population who's not in ag and doesn't have first or second, they have no idea what it's like to run with the risk involved every year to farm and to survive through the ups and downs. So if you've had a few good years and you're older, maybe a little bit older than me, and let's say you got through the 80s when you were a young buck, you survived, your dad survived, your mom and dad, they got through it, and you had like no money, no Benjamins. Now new tractors come out, early 90s. You wouldn't believe how many people have told me over the years that model tractor, the 4055, is their favorite tractor. And now you're 3 decades down the road, you've had some good years, you're a conservative operator, your powder's dry. And here along comes one with 22 hours on it. Now,
it's basically new.
It's brand new. It's a time machine. It's an absolute green time machine. And you know what? If something makes you smile, what it costs, that'd be my third machine repeat life lesson. Don't worry as much about the cost. If it makes you happy, like you see, I'm wearing a hoodie for some dumb reason. Controlling if I get up in the morning and if I can put a hoodie on, I'm a happy guy. Now, whatever makes you happy, run to that. So it wasn't just 2 guys that had to have this 4055. There were probably 4, 5, 6, 7 bidders that wanted it. And anyway, it goes for $275 as the market is falling. Well, that, if you talk Sigma, I just find that fascinating. Now, to me, when I talk to the Wall Street crowd, because they're in the business of looking ahead, trying to judge, whether it's whatever, New Holland or Deere, AGCO stock. Is it going to go up? It's going to go down? Hey, machinery repeat, what's happening? One of the things I tell them is watch the old money. is how long is it going to last? How deep is that well? Now, it's so difficult, excuse me, because if you're a young farmer trying to break in or buy that used tractor and you see these high auction prices, that's frustrating as heck. And I feel that pain. But I guess it just mirrors our society. You know, we've split into different levels, and, you know, money makes money. And so when you have it, you know, you can go chase these things that are tied to your heart.
Hey, we're going to jump over to our next segment here, Greg, see what you have going on with TM. I can't believe this happened.
Greg,
All right, so go ahead, Tyne.
Well, before we start, I just want to say, I don't call this your hair, wouldn't call it gray, your tips because you are gray headed. I call your gray hair experience. Those luscious locks mean something, Greg. Okay.
Luscious locks. Oh,
They
wait till
mean
I
something.
wait
That
till I
gray
tell-
means, listen, I've got lots of knowledge.
Here's what I'm fighting is I'm fighting like heck not to be the gray-haired angry guy in the front porch. Get off my lawn.
Get off my lawn.
That's again, I'm trying to
You could not be angry if you tried.
Well,
I don't think so
I'm a
either.
Minnesota Vikings fan, so
Yeah.
there's decades of pain there. But anyway,
Well, you're also Minnesota nice. So
no, if I actually
It's out.
as I'm sitting in my office here, our two daughters, this was for Father's Day a few years ago. They again, because I watched them half time when they were growing up, so they would hear me in the basement answer the phone for our business, and they grew up to me answering the phone. Shane, repeat, this is Greg. So they made a little plaque, little block, and the other one they made up is you know, biblical. Every day is a gift and a blessing. So even when we're having, and you know, in the ag now, and you know, mental health month here in May, I'm going to be doing a podcast with a good friend in the dealer side about that. No matter what the challenges are, man, every day it's still a gift.
it is
It's still a gift
and a
So,
blessing.
yep.
Tyne, do you
So-
have a TMI? Can't believe this happened to you this week.
Well, I mean, mine's kind of sad. It not to me, but just on, you know, in agriculture, we're all family, and you grow close to people. And you know, we interview a lot of different people, and so they become, you know, agriculture is just a big family. But it's a sad one. I cannot believe number 88 on Twitter passed away. But since Clay has done such a good job of still posting updates, and it's getting thousands of likes, hundreds of reposts, hundreds of comments. He's reaching people around the globe. And, you know, Greg, I bring that up because you are kind of one of the OGs of social media in agriculture, an influencer. Do you know what OG means? Because Jim Wiesmeyer didn't.
I am familiar with OG.
Okay.
It took me a while, but
You got it now?
our daughters 33 and 30, and they kept saying OG, and I'm like, I better Google that. So I
Figure out what that is.
figured it out a few years ago.
That's how Clinton named half of our segments because of his kids. He learned the lingo.
That's
Anyway,
right.
There you
There's
go.
new lingo. You just
but
keep
you
learning.
know the power of social media, and you built a business around that. But what Clay's been able to get accomplished over the last few months as he had this captivated audience is nothing short of impressive. And I'm so glad that his posts are continuing to reach such a wide audience around the globe. Even though number 88 passed away, you know, we followed her journey. And just a reminder of realities on the farm and ranch. We've all been there. But how he continues to just foster that connection on social media is awesome. And I don't think it's going away. He's done a great job.
Social media, man, it is something. I'm fighting a bit to, again, not be the grumpy old guy in the front lawn here, but no, what you explained, obviously the uplifting aspects are just off the charts powerful. People sharing their truths, and when done honestly, you know, because we have less now in farm country, we're still getting together more. I live in Minnesota, in Rochester. It's the state. It's an awesome state. Everything's, you know, we love it, but it was a little harder to get together for a few years there. So, and we talked about physical auctions not happening. So social media, right or wrong, is kind of our gathering place.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's super powerful. And again, the only thing with social that I'm kind of, I guess I'm interested about, but also kind of worried about, is just, and it started with my wife, Jackie, in education. This is probably 6 years ago in Rochester. She was out to one of the schools and they pinged the fourth graders and they said, "Hey, what do you want to be when you grow up?" So, and you guys have kids, different. Clinton, I forget your son, how old he is, your oldest.
16. Yeah.
Oh man, 16.
Yeah.
And Tyne, your girls are,
They're younger, 8 and 9. So
yeah,
light years ahead. I've got to read his book as he succeeds at parenting. I just read his each chapter as he goes.
Well, the number one answer was they want to be a YouTuber, which is, it was fantastic. But now it's influencer. Everyone wants to be an influencer. And people are doing it. And, done right. I mean, the joy, the connection, the truth, super powerful, right? But I'm old and I'm looking forwards and backwards. So when I look backwards, I posted every day on social media since the first week of August in 2009. So it'll be 15 years in August.
What'd you start on? MySpace? What was your first?
Yeah, what was your handle?
Yes, I gotta laugh.
What was your song? What was your MySpace song?
No, I was after MySpace, but
okay.
I did not, when I was posting our YouTube videos, it was before the phones really did video. So, excuse me, I went down to Target and for $99, I bought a flip cam. So this little thing, you plug it into now we didn't have laptops so much then, it was desktop. So you'd plug this into your desktop and then it would download the video you shot. And again, it's been super fun. But now, so many young people with social and, having families and separating the lines between, do I bring my kids into everything's content?
I know.
And I was doing content for business purposes. And I didn't start till my kids were through college. I remember physically that month of August 2009 saying, okay, the girls, we had the we time. They're grown up into college. Now it's time for me to hit the pedal and just go. And so I'm thankful it's sequenced that way for me. And I know young people in social will figure it out, but I'm just worried that, you got to find a balance because you got to live your life. And these phones are amazing. I mean, obviously our business is built around people shopping at machinerypete.com. We thank you for shopping there, but live your life. I mean, it's not all through the phone, right? And the pressures involved. And that's just that word influencer. I don't like that word.
But you are one.
Well, whatever.
He would call himself a reporter. A price reporter.
Actually, our friend
or a storyteller.
Our friend Charlene Fink, when I joined the Farm Journal family back in January, well, actually it was July of 13, so 11 years now. She said, I'm trying to remember the exact term. I think it was citizen journalism, something like that. And she said, that's what you're doing. And I was like, well, I don't know what that is. I'm not trained in it. But I told her and the rest of the Farm Journal management team, they're like, well, what's your business all about? And I said, honestly, I'm just running to the sunshine. And I know that this info is helpful. And I know in my gut that I can't give people enough. So I could write a column in Farm Journal, or that's why I started a TV show. I didn't have the money to do it. I didn't know how to make a TV. I didn't train in any of that stuff. But I felt this pressure to give people more. And so that was motivating me. And social media came along and I was like, oh my God, this is perfect. Now I can do 4, 5, 6 Facebook posts a day. Twitter. Oh, here's Twitter. Okay. Twitter. It's a mess, whatever, but I can put more. Oh, here's Instagram. Here's YouTube. So it's been fantastic. I'm excited for the future. Hoping I can do more live stuff. But again, my age and my dinosaurness, it works against me. But there's my weakness. I need to lean into that and figure out how to do it, I guess.
That's so funny. Greg, do you have an all-time favorite machine?
Well, I do. And when I've spoken around the country, periodically I'll wheel this out. And, I say I've been doing this for so long, 34 and a half years. If you condense it down, there's just a few truths that have come to the fore for me. And one I call our Machine Repeat rule of 12, which to me is when you were 12 years old, what was your favorite tractor? And I was 12 years old in 1977, and my dad was a John Deere dealer in Benson, Minnesota. So when I would go out to the lot to fart around and, look for serial numbers and sit in the cab and drink a bottle of Pepsi, it cost me a dime from the pop machine in the store. 4440s had just come out. And I'd look at that and it's like, man, tractors, they won't get any bigger and better than this. And so when you're 12, that just, it embeds in you. And I've over the years had so many farmers come up and sort of relay similar stories. Now, what gets really interesting is, like in Louisville a couple years ago, I asked the audience there, I'm like, okay, I told my rule of 12 and people are like, yeah, it's pretty close. Okay, I gotcha. And then I'm like, do you think a kid today, this rule will apply? And I said, raise your hand if you think it will. And like one hand went up. And I don't like to get into disagreements, but I said, you guys are wrong on this one, because it's just human. If you're 12 and that favorite tractor was a Case IH Steiger 620 quad track, I think that's always going to be your favorite tractor. And even let's go back to that example of that 4055 that brought 275. Now, maybe the guy that bought it didn't have money back then to buy it, but that stayed with him. Yeah. And that was my dad's favorite tractor, that kind of a powerful thing. So I think that's Machinery Pete rule of 12, I think is one of my favorites.
Very good. We got one more segment to cover here real quick, and it's my fantastic life.
Before we get into that, Clinton, will you do your impression of Machinery Pete?
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Backstory. They told me, Clinton, that you do this, and now before we start recording, so
just for some backstory here, Greg is kind enough to send us a segment every week for Ag Day, right? So we've been, I don't know how long you've been doing this, Greg, 5, 7, 10 years. I'm not sure. It's been a while.
It probably seems like a lifetime because you have a lot of deadlines every single week, Greg. I don't know how you do it all.
I don't know how he does it either. But
11 years.
There's always a segment. And like, if you spend enough time around Greg, you know that he's kind of got a cadence and a few things he talks about. And so like every week they'll ask us, well, what did Greg send in? We call you Machinery Greg sometimes too, just because, your name's not actually Pete, it's Greg, but so we've got a friend here, Bobby, that likes to call you Machinery Greg anyway. And so they'll ask us, so well, what did Pete send in? So I'll be like, well, hey there, folks. We were just down at an auction just outside Mankato. Now, it was an absolute auction by our good friends over at Crenshaw Auctions. Fantastic outfit. They run a very clean bid. We've got 2 4440s that are going with low hour, one owner. Fantastic. Anyway, that's my Machinery Pete pitch.
I knew the word folks was going to be in there.
Hey there, folks. And sometimes I'll throw in we were just fishing for pike just over Memorial Day.
That's pretty good, buddy.
Outside of Rochester.
Greg, do your Harry Carey impression.
Okay, well, we were kicking around impressions, folks, before we started recording. And Clinton, baseball coach, son, fantastic baseball player. Mm-hmm. And anyway, he said he did a Machinery Pete, and I said, well, do you do a Harry Carey? So again, I'm so old. I remember the old SNL skit. It would have been, I guess, Will Ferrell with Jeff Goldblum and Harry Carey. Wow. Hope you had a great Memorial Day, folks. Had some pork chops and wow. It's not very good, but
it's actually really good. Maybe that's your calling, your next calling.
Wow.
Well, you did do sports reporting. I don't know.
I did sports reporting, but we were talking to a PA announcer here, Tyne Morgan. Folks,
I don't know if announcing 8-man football counts.
Are you kidding me? That
sure does.
Hey, Friday Night Lights. It doesn't get any better than that. Well, my part-time job at the Post Bulletin from 91 to 95, and they'd send me out and they'd go, hey, Greg, you pick the best game in the area. And I'd go, oh God, this is so fun. So I'd go to Lanesboro or Eoda or St. Charles, Minnesota. So you're on the mic announcing those games. That is awesome because those memories stick with those kids and families forever, just like these tractor stories do.
It's more of an experience. So I may not be the best announcer, but it started 2 years ago. So this will be my third season if they haven't.
Okay, well, let's say so you're working the PA, right?
Yeah, I'm working the PA, but it's pretty black and white. I'm not a color commentator. It's who made the tackle. But I figured, you know what? If I'm not going to be the best announcer, I can make it the best experience they've ever had. So, I mean, we play music. We have games. I try to make it an experience. But I will tell you, if you've never been to an 8-man football game, it's actually very fun because they score frequently.
Oh, so, 63 to 58.
Yeah, like one game was 96 to 84. Like that was the score. And so after every touchdown, we have a dance party. And so I'm telling you, it is a dance party all night in Orrick, Missouri for 8-man football. So if you want to come out and check it out this fall, I don't know if I'll be asked back, but we will see.
I think the Roadshow should actually do do a Friday night show and catch you in action. That would be fabulous.
Oh, there we go. Love that idea.
I mean,
Greg.
how has that not been done yet? That seems like I'm not a media guy, but that's like a natural.
Well, I've asked for a new show called The Real Housewives of the Missouri River Bottoms, but they have not got off on that yet. But Craig, the funny thing is, some of the kids did not know that I actually host a television show. So like in basketball, if I'm home, I'll go announce the starters for the basketball games too. Not a problem. The administration, their favorite thing is not to get on a microphone. So I'm like, yeah, if I'm in town, I'll come announce. So one of the kids last year, he said, Tyne, where were you last night? They had like games back to back. And I said, well, I was in Minnesota or somewhere like that. No, I was in Kentucky maybe. Anyway. And I said, well, I was such and such. And he goes, why were you there? And I said, well, I have a job. Do you know that? And he goes, no, I thought you were the voice of the Bearcats. Like that was, and I had to say, well, Xavier, that doesn't pay very well. It pays nothing. So
just been the star of U.S. Farm Report Weekly for how many years now, Tyne?
Well, I mean, we're a farming community, so a lot of people know what I do. But the girls, for the longest time, they didn't know that I was on television. I mean, I don't go up to people and say, "Hi, my name's Tyne. I host a television show." That's not what I do.
I gotta tell both of you. I gotta tell. Well, that's one of my truths. Again, that's job number one. You don't get to do that one over again. That's awesome. Nope. But I do have to thank both you guys because I've learned a lot from working with you and watching you guys how you do things and talking to audiences and you're both really good listeners, which I've always enjoyed that about how you guys do what you do. So hats off to the careers you guys have built. And Clinton, man, I don't know, editor of Farm Journal plus Ag Day. How the heck do you do that?
I asked the same thing.
Just keep plugging along just like you do. The numbers never stop, Greg. So you just kind of keep rolling with it until you run out of time.
Well, that is a huge crock pot and you're making it awesome. So keep doing it, man.
Would Mary Beth call you a good listener? Because I'm going to clip this part out of the video and put it to my husband.
Hey,
he does not think that.
Listen,
James.
Yeah, he actually thinks because he says I ask a lot of questions, too many questions. And he goes, I don't think you understand. You're interrogating the person. You're not asking questions. I feel like I'm being interrogated every time I talk to you. And it's true. I do ask a lot of questions.
Now, can I throw in one more little machine repeat life advice?
Yeah.
So this would be for young people.
Yeah.
And okay, now whatever. I've been doing my thing for a long time. And when I was a kid, I was like the shyest kid in the history of the world. I mean, I just couldn't say anything. And one of the secrets that I learned, it was halfway through college. I'm 20 years old. I'm a little bit of a slow learner, but give me time, I'll catch up. And I figured out my wife, my soon-to-be future wife, Jackie, came along, and this beautiful long lady, and she wanted to talk, and we started talking. And I struggled to drive conversation, but I found if I ask questions that I don't have to. And then when it's more than just asking the questions, if you look people in the eye and really listen to what they're saying, you'll have this conversation, and the person, when they leave, feels good. And it wasn't anything magical you did or said. It was just that you cared. And so I forget who it is in our ag Twitter community posted a question. This was like 6 months ago. And they're like, what advice would you have for young people? And I hopped on there and I said, eye contact. Because again, we're living in this world where we all look down at our cell phones. And so you guys, you know, I know you do it with your kids, and I'd encourage others too, but just pay attention to the interactions. Because I think going forward, the skills that young people, if they can look people in the eye, older people, and talk to them and listen, I mean, you can get whatever education you want in school, but you got that going for you. You can kind of write your own ticket.
Yeah.
And when our girls were young, and again, we didn't have 2 nickels, working 2 part-time jobs, whatever, we'd go to like Burger King and spend, like, back then it was like $5 to get lunch. And they would laugh because we would go to the counter and order our food, and then we'd sit down, and I would always look at them and I'd say, okay, what's your score? And what I was asking them was to rate the person behind the counter. Like, did they look at me? Did they say, hey, have a nice day, thank you? And because that's $0 to do that. That's in your control as an employee, part of an organization, to have a positive attitude, work hard, smile. And is there any
And be
immediate?
kind.
Be kind. Yes, be kind. And there's no immediate financial return on that, but you put that in your crock pot over your whole life, and that's good stuff.
Greg, I restarted youth baseball in our little town. So we had the first week of
yes.
games. Anyway, and so last night, during the game, the visiting catcher, like they were trying, it was the first game for this team. And so the coach for Oric was trying to explain to the batter, like, spread your legs a little bit more, get your bat up. Anyway, the catcher behind the plate, so I almost had tears in my eyes. He came up to the batter, and with his feet, he moved his feet where they needed to be in the box and then went back down. And I thought, you know what? Kindness is free, number one. And number two, I am letting that kid come get something free from the concession stand because you need to reward kindness. Like, remind this kid that, what you did, not only was it so kind, so generous, but it was noticed. Anyway, so afterwards I told his coach, he came up and I said, thank you. Kindness matters. And I just want you to remind you of that. But it's those little things that now in the world, it's just, I feel like we don't do a good enough job of acknowledging when those things happen and acknowledging the good, acknowledging the kindness. And so anyway, it was just such a heartfelt moment. And I went to his mom afterwards and I said, you are doing a good job.
Well, and I don't know, Greg, if you feel this way, but since the pandemic and like there was just life got off kilter for a little while. And I just feel like there's just, people got off kilter a little bit. And I think we've forgotten to appreciate some things and appreciate people and really be around others and show kindness and caring to folks around us. And it seems like we're just a little sharper and we're a little more cynical than we were before. And I'm hoping over time that will start to ease a little bit. But it's, the last few years, frankly, I'm kind of over it. Like I'm just ready for people to treat others right.
Social's one of them. Like we posted a reel the other day, Greg, of one of the Mavericks for technology and how he planted, it was a Facebook reel, and how he planted his whole field hands-free, which GPS, yes, a lot of people have that, but even the turn rows now, right? Like once he gets in the field, he does not touch the wheel one time. And the amount of people that called him lazy and really just bashed him for utilizing this technology that's at his fingertips. Yeah. Even my husband mentioned it to me. James was like, did you see all of those comments? It took me back a little bit because someone that's doing, he's utilizing the technology that's there, working smarter. He's still working just as hard, but working smarter and realizing that there is an ROI, there is a benefit to it. The amount of people that called him lazy for it, but that's the downside of social media, right?
Okay.
You've got the naysayers too.
I'll share 2 things here. So one is that, I'm a data guy, and Clinton, what you said is that's truth, brother. It's that sharpness I think there's we're getting tired of the negativity. Now, again, I look backwards and forwards, and one thing that's not really talked about yet in our culture in the US that I freaking guarantee you will be is the birth rate is kind of tanking. And people can go, well, yeah, whatever. That's because of to me, one of the base reasons is this culture we've created. The negativity permeates everything. And when everyone talks, negative, guess what? You have painted a negative picture of the future. Now, not to be a Pollyanna, but I think we need, whether it's organizationally or leaders. Politics is a mess, but opportunity is there to, be honest and say, yes, we got some serious problems here. But you know what? We still live in a country where, and we can disagree, but you can still roll up your sleeves and be an idiot and decide, I want to make a business out of compiling auction prices or whatever. You can do it. You're only limited by your own, ability and effort.
What does that plaque say in your office again?
Oh, every day is a gift and a blessing.
Every
Right.
day.
So it's mindset. So if we don't soon start talking positively, we're going to create ourselves where our kids, I think the average number of kids now they have is 1.5 and they have them later. And that's because of all this negativity. And the other point I was going to make to your point, Tyne, these posts, we're living in this petri dish of social media. And one thing that I'm fascinated by, I'm posting stuff all the time and you get negative comments and stuff. But why is it as humans, we can get 20 nice things said about us or nice, oh, that was a great whatever. But the one negative that sticks and it shouldn't stick to us as much. It does. And that's human and it's real. And, it's just become so easy for people. And, you feel sad for people that sit around and make those comments. It's like, but, social media and technology is wonderful, but some of it is like not good. And that's why for young people, for example, our son-in-law, very smart guy, is a surgeon. About 6 months ago, he told our daughter, his wife, he goes, I'm going to stop social media. I don't. And to me, it was interesting why he said he was going to stop. He said, it doesn't make me feel good. Now that you wouldn't say that's a data point, but that's like the biggest, most important data point there is. This is not good for me, at least to be, doom scroll and all that stuff. Now, if we can run towards the light and the positivity, those stories you guys share every week, U.S. Farm Report and Ag Day, and what I try when I can to share or Tyne your examples, that lifts us up and makes us all better. So that's up to all of us to, move, just leave the negative crap and just leave it. And just don't be Pollyanna, but just, be kind. Like exactly what you said, Tyne. Just that would make the world a better place.
Well, Greg, we appreciate you lifting us up this week. Like it's just always a breath of fresh air to have you on and to visit and hear your story and to hear, your take on life, just through lived lessons and experience. And, hopefully people will watch this and listen and take away some of those lessons.
There's power and positivity. That is what we're reminded. There's power and positivity. Right. And Greg, you haven't changed in your 35 years. You're still a positive person who's built a business off of finding the positive in the midst of anything. So
it's been a joy hanging out with you guys. And again, love what you're doing here. Don't know how you have time, but God bless what you're doing. It's great stuff and fun to be a part of it.
Thanks, Greg.
Thanks, Greg.
All right, Clinton, a little bit of a breath of fresh air, kind of his pace of life and the reminders in life, and just, don't take anything for granted. Every day is a blessing. Good reminder for all of us.
Absolutely. And that goes with, living life a little bit unscripted. Go
That's
out
right.
there and appreciate everybody and appreciate the things that you have and, just work day to day and maybe show a little kindness once in a while.
Until next time, I'm Tyne Morgan.
I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great one. Thanks for joining us. You can dive into more of Unscripted on Farm Journal's YouTube channel and listen to it anywhere podcasts are found. I'm Clinton Griffiths.
And I'm Tyne Morgan. From all of us here at Farm Journal, keep it real as you live your life unscripted.
Unscripted is a production of Farm Journal Studios, where no one grows alone.